If Lonelius' stage name was Howler Boy, Howl rests in Boy's belly all night, unclenches herself from his teeth, stretches far like air waves. He croons midnight blues, hungers his lunar self. Eclectic electricities course through her ghost. Concave craters explode across his heart. Her lo-fi grit, razor-sharp vocals mess up and break apart night's radio silence. He grows wolfen nerves and fangs, breathes smoke through their microphone. Her shock waves burst open his bristled jaw. Static spittle spews, and ghosted vibrations shudder. Welcome to Splice. My name is Winston Lee. I'm here with my co-host Chantal Houle. Splice is a variety-themed podcast showcasing 3 individual segments, each one focused on work of creative writing. This podcast is a joint project between the Kwantlen Creative Writing Guild, of which Chantal and I are both executive members of, and Radio Free Kwantlen, Kwantlen Studio radio broadcast station run by Kimberly McMartin. The idea for a Creative Writing Podcast was conceived by Angela Rebrick, a member of the Guild, and this year's recipient of the Best Coin Writing Award. As a collective, we wanted to showcase our writing through a different medium, and so a podcast seemed like the best choice because of the ubiquity of literary podcasts on CBC radio, such as Writers and Company and The Next Chapter. The purpose of Splice is to broadcast a variety of literary and creative genres, all focused on a single theme for each episode. Each episode contains 3 segments, and each author from that segment will read from their individual work. Afterwards, we will hold a panel discussion regarding the literary craft in context with the segments. Before I switch over to Chantal to review this afternoon's theme, she and I, on behalf of the Guild and Splice, would like to send our gratitude towards Kimberly McMartin and Radio Free Kwantlen, along with all of its members, for helping us set up the recording and for the long hours spent during the editing process. Finally, I'd like to thank all the Guild members whose feedback on each of the segments during the workshop process was invaluable.
This afternoon's episode is Lost and Found. We've chosen this title because each of the 3 segments in this episode deals in one way or another with the loss of identity and the desire to become a fractured persona, the outsider. Tonight, you will hear 3 very distinct voices that interpret what it means to be an outsider. Hold on tight, because this evening, you'll ride along in the back seat of a taxi with the alienated, their survivor, and the absurdist, who will tell you their stories whisper by whisper. Our readers for this afternoon will be Jeffrey Nelson, Alex Terhart, and Connor Doyle and Angela Rebrick. Jeffrey Nelson is a writer, editor, critic, and musician whose poetry and essays have appeared in Poetry is Dead, Prism International, Subterrane, Lemon Hound, The Rusty Toque, Soliloquies, Rip Torn, QWERTY, and the Glasgow Review of Books. His work has been shortlisted for the Malahat Review Far Horizons Award for Poetry and won honorable mention in the Alfred G. Bailey Poetry Prize competition. When not writing, he is a contributing editor for ARC Poetry magazine and the web editor for Pulp, a literature and visual art magazine of student work at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. He lives in New Westminster, BC, Canada, with his daughter Scarlett.
Goodbye television. Hello alienation. The family television exploded in the middle of my 6th birthday party. My friends and I were about to settle in with cake and ice cream to watch the Transformers, the movie. And it wasn't so much an explosion, that's only how I remember it. I put the tape in the VCR, pressed play, and as I pressed the circular button on the face of the television, the sound was more of a loud pop, the screen going black, and a fizzle of static releasing into the room. The television was big, a tube-style model the size of a sideboard, the kind encased in decorative wood and stained walnut brown. I pulled it away from the wall and searched desperately for a loose wire or dislodged power cable. Everything was in proper order, but a mean heat radiated from inside the wooden box, and everything smelled of burnt plastic. The TV was dead, no doubt about it. To make matters worse, only an hour earlier, my sister and I had finished World War III over whose video we would watch first, the Transformers or My Little Pony. The 1980s were a big time for children's toy cartoon crossovers. She won the war, in spite of the fact it was actually my birthday. We were having a joint party, something that happened because my sister's birthday was over summer break, and my mother feared because so many families were on vacation in August, no one would come to her party. So my sister and I regularly had birthday parties on the last weekend before summer break, around the time of my birthday in June. Already annoyed at sharing my birthday, and now extra pissed at the demise of our faithful family television at the hands of my sister's stupid movie, the My Little Pony incident, as I would come to remember it, was the catalyst for a deep-seated hatred of Hasbro's precious ponies. The irony, of course, is my own daughter now, like most of the girls her age, loves the stupid things. The worst part is I never even got to see the Transformers, the movie, until years later, and by that time, sick of hearing all about it over and over from my friends at school, I had lost interest. Goodbye, television. Hello, alienation. Gone, just like that. My parents cut off the cable connection. My dad and I hauled the fried TV to the city dump in the back of his empty work van. The compressed spot on the carpet where it sat returned to normal after a few weeks, and when I looked into the family room, it would have been easy to think the television had never existed. What was true for me as a young child was that television was my window to the world. The Vancouver Sun arrived at our door every day, but I didn't read the newspaper except for the funny pages. I was obsessed with syndicated Warner Brothers cartoons, Hockey Night in Canada, and local network newscasts every weekday at 6 o'clock with my dad. I'm sure my parents would have bought a new TV if they could have afforded one, but they couldn't. Not then, so the family went without. What is most apparent to me about growing up is my identity was defined by the fact I spent a large portion of my childhood without a television. I mourned it. I missed it more because I knew what I had lost. I pleaded with my parents, "Please, Mom, please, Dad, buy us a new TV. You ruin my life every day we don't have one." My mother said, "Stop being dramatic," and she was right, but that didn't make it easier. I was ridiculous in the way only a child can be, where every inconvenience was taken like a slight against my very existence. But there was a sliver of truth to my plight. In those days, before any restrictions on advertising to children, TV was still where kids found out about everything and anything cool. Living without a television meant I lived out of the loop of all the things that were most important to my group of friends. The gap between us was small at first. I tried to watch as much TV as I could after school at my best friend's house, but over time the gap grew, from missing the debut of a new Saturday morning cartoon like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to being out of touch with large swaths of culture, including television, music, and current events. I missed the debut of The Simpsons and the Energizer Bunny, the rise of WrestleMania and much music, the birth of hip-hop and grunge, and the Black Monday crash of stock markets and the revolutionary fall of the Berlin Wall. It seemed at the time the whole world witnessed these moments on their television screens. Well, the whole world except for me. The ubiquitousness of what I missed made my lack of it all the more alienating. I felt like I was playing catch-up with my friends. I sat on the outside of conversations, nodding my head as if I knew what everyone was talking about. Eventually, I gave up the charade. The act wasn't really fooling anyone, and I have never been a person able to feign interest. Unexpected in my giving up was finding total freedom, a freedom from being like anyone else my age, a freedom from chasing the next hot trend, and a freedom from dreaming of Nikes or a Sony Walkman. Call it liberation from being told what to pay attention to. I became an authority, or something like it anyways. Information was the window through which I viewed the world. I read the World Book Encyclopedia. I studied music older than I was. My dad would play Name That Tune with the local classic rock station, and I would get every song correct, sometimes within the first few bars. The loss of the family TV gave me the freedom to find my own interests, not simply to follow what was being put on television for me to appreciate. What became interesting wasn't what everyone else knew about, but what very few other people knew about, the unknown, the unappreciated, or the forgotten. Interesting was finding Seasons in the Sun by Vancouver musician and songwriter Terry Jacks in my dad's record collection, and learning the title track sold 14 million copies worldwide in 1973, one of the largest selling singles by a Canadian artist ever. And yet most people had never heard of him. Even now, I have a deep suspicion of the current and the popular, as if for me to appreciate a book or a song, the secret of its greatness must be mine to reveal. I know the move to disregard things just because they are new or popular was blatant and reactionary. I think I knew then too, but was willfully blind. When my family finally got another television in the mid-1990s, inherited from my dead great-grandmother, I took to watching Seinfeld every week with my dad and Friends every week with my sister. Not long after, I was in on every joke and master of his domain catchphrase, spotting new Rachel haircuts on the girls at school. And the high-stakes drama of NHL hockey sucked me in too, just in time for my first of many disappointments at the hands of the Vancouver Canucks. But that was it. I never jumped all the way back to popular culture. I lived in the world of books and music, where there was so much to discover and so much to learn, where the world was a warehouse of facts and recordings waiting for me to find them. Alienation was a gift. I had no idea where I was going or what I would find, and that seemed just fine by me.
That was Jeffrey Nelson reading from his memoir, Goodbye Television, Hello Alien Nation.
Alex Terhart is a dirty mind imprisoned within Netflix and HBO. He is able to bend the bars of his cell whenever he makes up his own shit and writes it down. It is up to you to listen so that he may one day be free to conquer once more.
I think this is how I die. I stand on the edge of the largest building in New Langley. I don't know how long it's been. We have always lived in this city. The cold railing sticks to my back skin and pushes me closer to the edge. The sun is setting, or rising. All I know is that it straddles the horizon. My back is cold, and the wind runs through every part of me. The air seems fresh outside, more yellow than brown. I stick my tongue out and the smog doesn't cling to my saliva. I see the decrepit tops of Vancouver buildings poke out of the sea. A long time ago, those seas rose, and everything got a whole lot warmer. A bunch of people had to move to high ground, hence New Langley, and decided that it was too hot to wear clothes anymore, so they stopped. I think my parents were the last people to join our tribe. That was a long time ago. I came into this world without clothes on. I spent most of my life naked and honest. I had a plant, but he didn't speak. He's dead now too. I don't want to be alone anymore. For hours I watched the Avros, giant hovering plane cars, carry people through the air below me. They buzz in the heat, finding different ways inside or outside of the different buildings beneath my feet. Avros are the busy chunks of metal, and hard workers too. I think I see one crash, or it dies, or it wanted to die. It has no explosions or screams, just a crunch. I look down at the street below. The people down there don't like me. I'd offer to help, but they don't want me. Maybe it's because they don't like the sight of skin. I like my skin. Maybe it's because they call me a radical. Anyone who doesn't have a chip implant is a radical. And the tribe will not tolerate anything inside or on the outside. It takes me a while to decide where I want to hit the ground. I have to make sure I don't hit any people, or avros, or anything else on the way down. But then I see a schmidge, something below me, a little bush. It's a little tiny spot. That's where I'm going to hit. A sliver of silver shines through my bush, and my eyes wander away from the street and onto my pubes. One of them is gray. I'm hitting the expiry date. Eventually, the peacekeepers will find me and put me down. No radicals can live past 65. Or maybe it is that they're not allowed to live. I think I'm getting close. I reach down and pluck the lone silver pube out. It struggles between my fingers as I twist it away from its other brown brothers. Wonder if I say some kind of apology like, "Sorry, little man," or something, before I drop it over the edge. The silver hair must scream in a frequency I can't hear because it slips through gravity, and I feel its fear slowly drifting down to the bottom. Silently it touches the ground and goes quiet. I decide that silver pube is going to be the last piece of me to fall onto that ground. I'm going to live. I need to find someone else. Then, tight leather screeches behind me. 2 peacekeepers shine in polished black with a mirror helmet covering their faces. One has a gun. The other asks if I'm going to jump. They take a step closer to my ledge, and I feel a smile in their voice. One says I look old and points the gun at my bush. I turn and jump. I wake up inside a room with a machine down my throat. I feel itchy and flat. My muscles refuse to answer any order that my mind gives them. All around, a curved reflection of myself stares back at me. Mirrors bent into a sphere around my body make up the walls of a strange room. I stick my tongue out. I taste medicine mixed with blood with a tinge of little metal. Hospitals have a thick air that is clean and dirty all at once. I jump when the floor opens, and a screen floats up to greet me. It has a man's face, but it sounds like a woman. Or a woman's face, but it sounds like a man. All I know is that it tells me what I feel, that I fell down, and that it hurts. It tells me the peacekeepers are arriving soon. I know that I have to run. The screen smiles and it says it will get the doctor, then floats away. I wait for hours before a woman waddles into my room. She smells like red meat and onions, and I think she looks a little bit like red meat and onions too. Her legs can't bend and her arms end at a stump with long fingers reaching out in front of her. I wonder if her fingers had to grow because she can barely move her arms. She's holding a needle or pills, some kind of medicine that she's trying to force inside me. With a warm voice, she says it won't hurt and that it will help to get my muscles back. She lied about the pain. My muscles rippled back in pain, and I was able to stand. I take off the smock and realize that my bush is entirely gray now, and I ask how long I've been here, and the doctor laughs. 2 peacekeepers walk into the mirror room before me and point their guns at my bush again. They ask me if I'm a radical. I say, maybe. I inform them that I am peaceful. They ask me why I'm naked. I say because it's hot. They tell me that I'm suspected of being over 65 years old and must be processed. And then I realize I can't stop them. They hold me down as the doctor puts on a glove over tiny fingers and puts an implant in my rectum. I struggle, and the same smiley voice tells me it'll be over soon. After they finish breaking my anus, the 2 peacekeepers secure silver clothes around my body that I can't take off. They chuckle and joke about how I can't show my skin anymore. The doctor and her screens remind me that you are not allowed to be naked in the city, or it's wrong to be naked in the city. I don't like having so much silver on me. The suit has clasps that ran down my back, and they hurt whenever I try to undo them. The peacekeepers escort me out onto the streets, and I walk slowly because it hurts inside. The peacekeepers shove me, so I'll walk faster, and I tell them to stop smiling at me. They push me onto my feet and tell me to stay out of trouble. And outside, the city buzzes in its own heat. No one notices me as I walk into the alley. Out of sight, I start chewing the stuff off my body. Rubbery silver cloth frequently gets stuck between my teeth, and I have to find something sharp on the ground to pick it out. I find a needle and carefully pick every chunk out. Every time I spit a piece of silver, the vile thing, onto the road, between my feet a little rat scampers up and takes it away. I always liked rats. We often share the same little corners of New Langley. Without a tribe, they are the only relatives I have now. They will stay my neighbors until I talk to them. Then they always hiss and scurry out of my life. I try to resist the urge to be their friends for as long as possible, but I always break down and ask them, "Are you alone too?" I want to love this rat. I want it to love me. I ask it if it'll help me find the few last claps on the back. The rodent hisses and runs away. I spend 2 or 3 days with a needle in my teeth. I spend 2 or 3 days with a needle in my teeth picking silver out of my body. I wander the city's grid and I decide to see home once more, to find the old building we called home. I want to find another Charlie, another plant. I liked plants. I helped Charlie bear sour red fruit with little seeds. Each person in a tribe had to bring one too. That way every member didn't go hungry. The more I talked to Charlie, the more fruit he gave me. As I walk closer to home, I see a giant golden N start to grow out of the building that I used to call home. Our wooden doors are glass now, with people going in and out, and little plastic cards in their hands. I walk past the glass and stuck my tongue out. Grease in the air attacks my mouth, and I have to breathe through my nose now. There's a counter with screens and blue hats fixed behind it. People walk up, put their plastic card into a big box. A few seconds later, they reach in and pull out meat and bread. The screens smile at every person walking past the glass. They look at me with angry eyes, but their mouths are still smiling. They tell me to leave, and I tell them that my family used to live here. Their smiles turn angry, and I ask them if they've seen Charles' babies. Some of them laugh, and then they threaten to call the peacekeepers. I took my needle and put it into one of the boxes, because I was hungry, and I had no plant. But the needle won't change into meat, and I tell the screens they can have it. I apologize because it's dull, and walk through the glass doors one more time, and I realize that Charlie is gone, and all his babies are dead. A woman walks out of the glass doors behind me. She is wearing a scarf and hat that made her sweat under this yellow glow. We stand, and I smile at her, showing my silver-stained teeth, and she spits at me. I ask her if she is feeling well, and she spits again. Her brown spittle lands on a newspaper that is sitting between my feet. In bold writing, it advertises a place called Africa, a place where nature still lives. Strange. I thought people were still part of nature too. I pick it up and ask a woman if she wants to go to Africa with me. She screams and then runs away. I decided to walk towards the mountains and thought about finding a new plant. There may be more Charlies out near Hope, maybe Sardis. I walked for a long time until I reached the blockade of churches. Berry farms and crosses line the faces of hills and mountains. A choir of men and women stand in robes. They form a line blocking the road, singing rhythmic chants, waving their arms in the air. Some just speak to the clouds inside. Some just speak to the clouds instead of singing. As I move closer, they stop their music and look down on me. A tall man with a white beard points a thick book. He warns me to stop, or he asked me to stop. I ask him if they have a plant that bears red fruit. The tall one smiles and calls me a confused old man. I say that I'm not more than 50. My anus throbs at the thought of peacekeepers finding me again. The tall man's face turns solemn, and says the sky knows when you lie. He explains peacekeepers hold no sway in his land, and that something called God rules this abbey. I nod in amazement, and I ask if I could have some of that abbey land too. A young blonde girl in a robe runs up, holding a cracker and a glass of purple juice. She has an extra robe in her hands and pulls it over my head. It itched a lot. The choir starts to chant again, and I share a snack with the girl, and everyone embraces me. And they all start singing my name, Brother Adam. And the tall one looks at me in the eye and says, "Because we found you ass naked, the way God made you." I forget how long I've been Brother Adam. We work in the fields picking different colored berries. I put them into a basket. I ate one berry once while I was working, and the bearded man whipped me. At the end of the day, we dump our baskets into a giant avro that lifts into the sky and flies south. Every morning I ask for my own plant, and they tell me that one is growing inside me. They call it a soul, and I often ask if it bore any fruit. And then they say, yes, it does. I ask if it's red, but no one will answer me. I miss Charlie, and my soul is just not as good as a plant. I can't see it, and it gives me nothing. I don't want to pick berries anymore. I can't eat anymore. I don't want to pick berries I can't eat anymore. I take my robe off and head for the mountains again. The Abbey people taught me how to pray and said I'm supposed to pray to someone called Jesus. I think Charlie sounds better, so I asked Charlie to help me to find a plant like him soon. I almost walked past the last church when the tall man and his other robes saw me. They chased me, yelling and screaming, and calling the sky to follow me. Their robes flap between their legs, slowing them down. But I'm naked. I can run faster. Our tribe could always run faster. The tall man realizes he can't catch me and points his thick book one more time. He warns Brother Adam that if I leave, I will die and burn for eternity. But I know that I'm not Brother Adam anymore, so I keep running, and I ignore Jesus. I walk for two or 20 days. It took me a long time to reach these mountains. Eventually I passed a sign that said hope, and beside it, the mountain started. I walked off the road and entered the forest. The ground slanted under my feet, and I had to struggle to stay upright. The trees around me were green. Everything was green. I stuck my tongue out and tasted the tree's sperm in the air, and my penis grew for the first time in a long time. I was old. I am old. My anus still hurts. Charlie is gone, and love is something I can only dream of sharing. I reach down and touch myself while I climb the mountain. I know that something like Charlie must be up here. I scan the browns and greens around me for something that's red. I notice a ladybug dance through the air, and then it lands on my penis. Her little legs tickle me, and I laugh at her. And I see she could be laughing with me. I ask her how her day is going, and she doesn't hiss, she doesn't spit, she doesn't run away. She just smiles. I asked her if she's cold, and I think I see the faintest nod shine off her little black head. In response, I pull my foreskin over her like a blanket and tell her it's okay to rest. I'm here with you. I feel her little legs tickle me as she curls up into a ball, and I think she stays there and loves me until I die. My little penis neighbor. It's better than a rat. It was almost nighttime when the sun was back against the horizon. I'm tall up in a mountain, and this sunrise is taking forever. It's making shadows dance in the trees. I pray to Charlie one more time, but I don't hear anything back. My body is tired, and I decide that I should try to ask for some directions. I feel warm steam against my neck, and a grunt rumbles through my back. I turn around to meet the sun-cast silhouette of a bear. His yellow eyes are like mine, hungry. Our tribe had legends about these big brown bears. My mother told me that they stole children and fruit. That was before the peacekeepers buggered them all out of existence. Bears are supposed to be big, but this one is as thin as a man. I asked him if he knows where to find a plant that has red fruit. With a grunt, he asked me if he can eat me. I think I say yes, but I'm not sure.
That was Alex Terhart reading from his short story, The Last of the Nudist Tribe.
Connor Doyle is a poet from Surrey, BC, and has been trying his best not to think of that as a contradiction. He received twin degrees from Kwantlen Polytechnic University in English, Literature, and Creative Writing, as well as multiple scholarships for his poetry and involvement in the writing community. He is one of the founders and a former managing editor of Pulp magazine and the winner of the 2013 Lush Triumphant Award for Poetry from Subterrane. Angela Rebrecht's poetry has recently appeared in Filling Station, Prism International, Event Magazine, and Kwantlen's own Pulp magazine. Apart from chipping away at her BA, she works as a longshoreman and sings in an all-women's choir. Angela has 3 children, 2 frogs, a cat, some fish, and a long-suffering husband, but unfortunately, no squirrels.
Chicken. We can have chicken for dinner.
Dad.
No, Jeremy doesn't like chicken. Spaghetti.
Dad.
I don't like spaghetti. Mac and cheese. Everyone likes mac and
Dad.
cheese. Not now. I'm just trying to...
We gotta talk about getting Jeremy and Rachel to school tomorrow. I've been late every day this week and my teachers are pissed.
Lasagna. Costco lasagna. I'll go right now. What was that?
We need to talk about Mom.
Sarah, this isn't anything new. Remember that when she threatened to move to Singapore in 2011?
Dad, this isn't normal.
What is normal?
She hasn't been inside in 2 weeks.
She's always threatened to move out.
Not that kind of out.
Honey, she likes it outside. Your mother's always been the outdoorsy type. What's that sound?
I don't know. You think it's Mom?
I don't think so. I found her shoes under the bushes last night. I think she's nesting there.
Yeah, but you know what? Jeremy said he saw her scaling a tree the other day.
Whose tree? Not Mrs. Yanuszewska's. She's going to call the city again?
Come on, Dad. She hasn't even eaten with us. What is she eating?
That's a scary question. Maybe that's why all the neighbors' garbage cans have been knocked over.
Hey, you said that was the raccoons. What if something with rabies has bit her? What if she bites one of us?
I guess this isn't very normal. Get ready to call the police. No? Animal control.
Dad, we need a mom. At this point, we need any mom to deal with us. I'm tired of taking care of the younger ones. I'm the kid, remember?
You're right, Sarah. Maybe I should call a nanny service. But what if she's marked her territory?
Dad! Come on, Dad. Let's focus here. What caused this? What did you do to her?
Oh, no. Do not lay this on me.
But she's always yelling at you to put the toilet seat down and stuff. And God, Dad, your socks are so gross. Mom's always yelling at you about all your stuff you leave everywhere.
She doesn't yell.
Yes, she does.
At me, not always at me.
What was that?
Was it the raccoons?
I think it's Mom.
What, you think the raccoons have turned her against us?
Don't be silly. Okay, Dad, when was the last time you did something nice for Mom? Like, what did you get her for her birthday?
Okay, maybe getting her the new iron for her birthday wasn't the best move.
Well, duh.
It's a German-made iron, and she kept complaining about the crap appliances we have now. I thought she'd appreciate it.
Really? An iron?
The Germans make very good irons, and the counselor suggested I listen to her more.
All right. Okay, what did you get for your anniversary?
Anniversary? Crap. When was that? It's coming up, right?
Oh, God. Forget that. What about Mother's Day? Okay, I know the kids made her cards at school, and I bought her a gardening book. What did you give her?
A walking stick.
Are you crazy?
Do not speak in that tone, Sarah Josephine Reynolds.
What was that? Hey, where is that stick anyways?
I don't know. I haven't seen it since she moved out.
What was that by the window?
Where? I didn't see anything.
It flashed across the window. I think it's her.
There's nothing out here except some birds and that nutty squirrel.
Okay, we have to figure out why she won't come back inside. And soon, before everyone in the neighborhood finds out.
Before Mrs. Yanishowska gets hissy fit. When was the last time you saw her in the house?
2 Fridays ago. She was filling the bird feeder before taking the kids to school.
All the damned animals your mother feeds, and here we are, her own flesh and blood, starving.
Costco! We've got Costco, Dad!
Costco lasagna. I'll go right now.
Okay, focus. When was the last time you saw her?
Let's see, she was mad at me because I moved the bucket of nuts we keep for the squirrels.
What squirrels?
The family of squirrels living in the chimney, or at least that's where they used to live.
So, was that the last time you saw her?
Well, no. She was in the fireplace.
The fireplace?
Well, not totally in. Her butt was kind of hanging out and she was yelling at me.
She always yells at you.
She wanted a pair of gloves.
Why, Dad? What was she doing in the fireplace? Was Mom removing the squirrels herself?
Do you have any idea how expensive it is to have them humanely removed by professionals? They were quoting us $400.
God, Dad.
Plus tax.
You're so cheap.
That's what your mother always says.
See? She's always mad at you.
Wait. You think the squirrels have turned her against us?
Dad! Okay, maybe the babies were stuck.
Oh, maybe. She did say the mama squirrel was making a fuss on the roof that morning. Jesus, that sound again.
Oh, God! There she is! Look up!
Dear Lord, look at her eyes!
Dad! Get Mom off the skylight!
Her eyes, they're so feral!
Dad!
Ah!
Hello? It's Mrs. Yanishowska. No, I haven't seen her today. Oh, she was at your back door? What? She bit you? God, okay, we'll call you right back.
Quick, Sarah, call 911. No. Animal control.
That was Connor Doyle and Angela Rebreck reading from their radio play, Mom's the Outdoorsy Type.
What is your definition of an outsider, and how did you feel you achieved that definition through your writing?
That's a good question. I actually think that an outsider is anything or anyone who lives from the rest of the herd. I mean, not only in a physical dimension, but also, sexually, culturally, your different language. In any way you can be an outsider. In my piece, I tried to write a character who was culturally outside from everyone else, but also who is someone outside of his own memory, is not quite knowing what's going on.
It's interesting that we're discussing this topic because there's this sort of duality to outsiders, right? It's, do you choose to be outside of the norm, or are you shunned by the norm and sort of brushed aside? So at least with our piece, there's a little of both going on. The mother sort of doesn't fit in, and she's physically removed herself, yet they want her in, but she doesn't fit in. Like there's this sort of choice. There's two sides of a choice going on. What do you think, Connor?
I think that's great.
And this originally started as the mother wanting to remove herself, but it sort of becomes not a choice. There's sort of this issue of perspective, right? Of, do you count yourself as part of, the norm, or do you want to be part of the norm, yet the norm rejects you, right? So it's the just two-sided sword kind of thing, being, an outsider.
That's lovely.
I think for me, an outsider is someone who either through their conscious decision or through the influence of their environment is not taking part in the mainstream of their reality. That could be their culture, it could be their peer group, it could be what they're interested in. My perspective was I didn't feel alienated or an outsider from my culture or my family. I felt alienated from my friends because I didn't have a television, and I couldn't talk to them about all the things that everyone was talking about when we were all young. It was a very specific kind of outsider. Not a physical outsider, but an intellectual outsider.
Did anything in your life inspire you to write your piece?
Well, lately I've been watching a lot of Survivor reruns, and watching that gave me the entire lone nudist in the future idea. And of course, the setting in BC is because I live in a beautiful place. Like, it's the best place to live in my mind. So, yeah, I went with it.
Did you ever bite your aggressive Polish neighbor?
If I've thought about it. No, I'm the mom in the household, and I do have 3 kids. So this kind of came out of this sort of weird fantasy of removing myself from, the household, and how could I do it, right, in a way that was sort of socially acceptable, right? And that's sort of the kernel of where this started from.
My television exploding really shaped the way in which I approach things. I wasn't always looking to my friends and to popular culture to get satisfaction with what I was interested in. I was always searching, like digging through the racks at a library or rummaging through bins at a music store. There's always something new to find when you don't have pop culture telling you what you should be interested in.
And on to the topic of definitions. Do you think the definition of outsider has changed over the years?
Previously, I think that outsider was defined as someone who lived beyond society's normals, and it was a very negative thing. But now, I think an outsider is almost something to be aspired to. To not be a part of a group is to be more of an individual in a society that prizes individuality as an important attribute.
What changes is really our boundaries of what is actually inside. Over the time, lots of people nowadays would be considered outsiders or insiders and are outsiders now. So it's just really where we draw our lines.
Yeah, that's pretty much sort of what I was thinking. It's what the norm always changes, right? Like 2 months ago, blue is in, and if you're wearing blue, you're the in person, and then 2 months from now, like blue's so out, and if you're wearing blue, you're like the nerd, and you're like not part of our group. So I think it really comes down to human nature, kind of like what drives us to want to all sort of be the same, and yet have this need to maybe make other people outside, like not part of you, and then there's always the people who like you to be like everybody else. I want to be different. So that's that balancing act of being the same but being an individual and fitting in but not being part of the crowd. It's so hard. I probably just digressed from your your question, but I think what is in will always change, but our need to be sort of in the inside and to have others on the outside will always be there.
And what made you decide on the genre that you wrote? Because all 3 pieces are written in different genres.
I needed comedy. If you've got kids, you need comedy, or there's no point.
I kind of hope kids don't hear my story. But that's all good.
18 and under, or
yeah, the kids have to hear it. No.
Can we put like
NC-17.
a rating for this podcast?
Peggy 18.
We could always bleed it like TBS, like the Peacekeepers probed my.
Oh no! Yeah, actually. No, actually, I wrote my piece as a monologue at first. That's what I kind of promised, and then it kind of turned into a first-person, really long short story. But actually, the entire time I imagined someone on a stage who's naked, though.
I love that.
But
I wonder if Mom's naked.
Just in my free time.
I wonder if Mom's naked outside running around
She
at
could
this
be.
point. Has Mom now totally removed the shoes and the clothes?
Yeah.
You can always add sound effects.
How do you sound effect naked?
Don't get me started.
Well, I was tired of writing poetry, and I think the expression of ideas in a detailed way comes through better when working in essays and creative nonfiction. Emotions and textures are easy with poetry, but with prose you actually have to say what you mean. So the choice there was practicality. I wanted to say something specific, so I needed to write prose for that.
Thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you to Jeffrey Nilsson, Alex Terhart, and Connor Doyle and Andrew Reberick for reading and making the Outsider episode of Comma Splice possible. Comma Splice will return in the fall for episode 2. We'll end this afternoon with Chantal reading from her poem 3 a.m.
You heard it said, 3 a.m. is the time when the veil between this world and the next is the thinnest. You were unsure of which other world was referred to, but you believed it. So that winter, when you visited the temporarily abandoned pier in the middle of the night, you brought a friend. You two rarely agreed on anything, but when you sat, bundled in blankets, hair whipping your face, the clouds vanished, and you both looked up to see the same moon.